Hello everyone, good morning. It is Wednesday, May 6th. I'm Stephanie Haney here for 3 News. I've got your top headlines from WKYC.com and our WKYC app. So as we do each morning, I will start you off with the latest numbers from the Ohio Department of Health and how COVID-19 is impacting us here in the state of Ohio, and give you a little bit more information about how those numbers are looking compared to the past week here in Ohio. So the most up-to-date numbers that we have from yesterday at 2 p.m. are these. There are now 20,969 reported COVID-19 cases here in the state of Ohio. That is based on the expanded CDC definition that includes both positive cases from testing and also probable cases of COVID-19 based on everything the medical experts know about the virus. In terms of death, the number of deaths here in the state of Ohio is now 1,135. If we take a look at the number of hospitalizations, that's at 3,956. And of those, the people who have been admitted into the intensive care unit are 1,123. So let's talk a little bit about those cases and how the number of cases has changed over the past 7 days. Yesterday, we saw 495 new reported cases of COVID-19 here in the state of Ohio. That number has been decreasing since last Thursday. Last Thursday, we saw a spike. On Thursday, we saw 724 new cases of COVID-19. Since then, the number of new cases each day has gone down. That's important because when we talk about trends, in order to begin implementing the more wide-scale reopening of the state of Ohio, the experts have said we need to see a 2-week trend in cases going down. And as testing increases, if we see those numbers of cases going down, then that's even better because that means the rate of people who are being reported with COVID-19 with increased testing is going down even more. So that's a positive. Now, if we take a look at the number of deaths over the last 7 days, however, it's a slightly different story. Yesterday, we saw 79 new deaths here in the state of Ohio that have been attributed to COVID-19. That was a jump up from Monday when we saw 18 new deaths related to COVID-19. So that's been moving around a little bit more. Now remember, last week on Wednesday, we saw the single largest increase in number of new deaths in a 24-hour period. Last Wednesday, we saw 138 new deaths related to COVID-19. Since then, it dropped down significantly. 138 was definitely an outlier at that point. The following day, we saw 38 new deaths. Then we saw 27 new deaths on Friday, which was also the day that the number of deaths jumped over 1,000 for the first time here in the state of Ohio. On Saturday, we saw 19 new deaths. On Sunday, there were 17 new deaths. On Monday, there were 18 new deaths. And then yesterday, we saw that jump back up again to 79 new deaths related to COVID-19. So we'll be taking a look at that when those new numbers come out from the Ohio Department of Health today at 2 p.m. Another thing we'll be taking a look at 2 p.m. is how the number of hospitalizations has changed over the last 7 days, and also the number of people who have been admitted to the intensive care unit over the last 7 days. This is on recommendation of a friend of mine who is a nurse working in New York City, who has made the point that there is a lag in testing. We don't necessarily know how much testing has been done. There is potentially a shift away from testing if that won't affect the treatment course. But something that is more real-time information, according to this nurse who I spoke to, is the data on how hospitalizations are changing, how the number of people in the intensive care unit is changing, and also, to a different degree, the number of deaths. Now, there is also a delay when you look at the number of deaths because the number of days that someone battles COVID-19 will be subjective as well. So not necessarily as real-time indicative of what the virus is doing right now in this moment. So we'll be taking a look at that at 2 p.m., so you can join us for that. So now to more headlines for you. Summit Mall and Aurora Farms plan to reopen on May 12th. That's next week. Those business hours will be limited so that they can enhance sanitizing and disinfecting. So they expect to open Monday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Sundays from noon to 6 p.m. They'll also be implementing preemptive employee screening. So those locations say that employees, contractors, and vendors will be required to screen themselves at home prior to coming to work. And if they have a temperature exceeding 100 0.4 degrees, or if they exhibit flu-like symptoms like a cough, body aches, they will be required to stay home and not come to work that day. They will also have employee safety protections implemented. Employees will be trained in CDC COVID-19 safety guidelines, wear protective face masks while on the property, and also be encouraged to frequently wash or otherwise sanitize their hands throughout the workday. And they will also be promoting and enforcing safe physical distancing. Several steps will be taken to encourage that distancing in the property as well. We talked yesterday about another mall that's opening that will not require face masks, but will strongly recommend them. But do also keep in mind that in these places it is possible that the individual stores that you might want to visit may have their own requirements. So keep that in mind. Now today at 2 p.m. we will not be hearing from Governor Mike DeWine as we have gotten used to. He's been doing those 2 p.m. press conferences for the past 6 weeks since we've learned of these early cases of COVID-19, since we first learned of them here in the state of Ohio. But that will not be happening today because the legislature is in session. So DeWine did say that people who watch the Ohio channel will be able to watch the state legislature, and it is the goal to be back tomorrow on Thursday with a press conference. DeWine did say, barring something unforeseen happening that would require a press conference, we won't be seeing him today at 2 p.m. But when he is back on Thursday with that press conference, he'll have a handful of expected announcements. This is including reopening plans for restaurants, daycares, and salons, something that I know a lot of people are very interested to hear about, so we can definitely expect to have more information from DeWine about that on Thursday when he comes back to his press conference at 2 p.m. Historically speaking, today marks 7 years since Amanda Berry, Michelle Knight, and GINA DEJESUS escaped from captivity here in Northeast Ohio. This was in 2013 that we learned about the fact after Amanda Berry ran outside into the arms of Charles Ramsey and called 911 to report the incredible abuse and torture and sexual assault that those ladies had been undergoing for years. Berry had been missing since 2003. Michelle Knight was kidnapped in 2002, and DeJesus had been missing since 2004. So over 10 years for Knight, almost 10 years for DeJesus, 10 years for Berry, that ARIEL Castro held those 3 women captive at his house here in Cleveland, torturing, beating, and sexually assaulting them. Now, Castro was arrested that same day, eventually sentenced to life plus 1,000 years, and then ended up taking his own life in September of 2013. The women were later awarded the Medal of Courage by then Governor John Kasich and have gone on to live their lives and are now enjoying their freedom. And currently, Amanda Berry works with Fox 8 here in Cleveland to help find missing and endangered children. So we're remembering that today, and you can find that story on WKYC.com and our WKYC app. Incredible women who went through something just horrendous and have come out on the other side of it. President Donald Trump today has said that the coronavirus task force will continue indefinitely at this point. This was in a series of tweets this morning. He said that the panel's focus would be on safety and opening up our country again. So this is after the president originally said that the task force would be disbanding. Deaths and infection rates outside of New York, which is the epicenter of COVID-19 here in the U.S., are rising, even as states move to lift those lockdowns and ease those restrictions. So the president tweet noted that the task force may add or subtract people from the current group as deemed appropriate. He also said that the task force hopes to wind down operations by June. This is what he was saying in terms of earlier that he wanted to disband the task force. So what he had tweeted was, the White House Coronavirus Task Force, headed by Vice President Mike Pence, has done a fantastic job of bringing together vast, highly complex resources that have set a high standard for others to follow in the future. Something Trump had mentioned when he had talked about the disbanding of the task force was a shift to focusing on reopening the economy here and getting the financial situation in a better place. So not clear if he plans to do that separately or continue the focus only on safety. But he did mention that the coronavirus task force would include a focus on opening up our country again as well. So we look forward to more clarity from Trump on that in the future. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is pushing a new stimulus bill forward, so we'll be talking about that more at 2 p.m., so make sure you come back with us in order to talk about the details of what that is looking like. And here's some information for Major League Baseball fans that might get you excited. But don't get too excited because it's still very early, but this might give you something to at least smile about. The Cleveland Indians are potentially preparing for a July 1st start for Major League Baseball. This is according to The Athletic's Ken Rosenthal. He said that Indians officials told their players to prepare for the league's new opening day to be July 1st. Rosenthal said this was during a Zoom call with 70 members of the Cleveland Indians organization, and also that a 3-week spring training 2.0 was expected to begin on June 1st. Now, these dates are targets that could change, but the Indians did say, according to Rosenthal, that the Indians wanted their players to be prepared should the league overcome its logistical challenges and be able to get started playing games. Now, while the Major League has not confirmed these dates, the dates mentioned by the Indians, again, according to Rosenthal, do line up with dates that were shared by former Major League pitcher Trevor Plouffe in a tweet earlier this week. However, Plouffe said that it would be June 10th for Spring Training 2.0 and that the season would potentially reopen on July 1st. So we will obviously be watching that very closely. Okay, next up we have 3 News Connect. That's with Jay Crawford and our senior health correspondent, Monica Robbins. They'll be answering all your questions about COVID-19. You can watch that on 3 News, also on WKYC.com and our WKYC app. And then I'll be back here at 2 p.m. as soon as we get those updated numbers from the Ohio Department of Health to give a better look at how COVID-19 is looking here in the state of Ohio today. And again, we'll also be taking a look at how those hospitalization and ICU numbers have changed over the past 7 days here in the state of Ohio. I will see you back here in a little bit. I'm Stephanie Haney.